What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Jeff Rosado, and today I have a really special deck tech for you guys. I've been talking about this one all week, and today I have a special guest, my friend Alexander.
Hey YouTube, how's it going? This is Alexander. I go by Hippocampus online. But yeah, I've known Jeff for quite a bit, and I really thank him for letting me be on his channel.
Of course. Thank you for being here. So, you have a really sweet deck list for us today. I've had the pleasure of playing against this deck, and I mean, this is a real banger. Like, this deck is really sweet. So, what avatar are you playing? Let's start with that.
All right, I guess we can start with those if you want. I'm actually playing Sorcerer. I know he's kind of basic, but I actually really like him for my particular deck, and I'll go into the specifics a little bit later. But basically, I just like how like generic he is. Like, he has just so many really good effects based on whatever you need. Like, I always get card advantage with this guy. I am playing 4 colors, so initially I was thinking I could try Elementalist, but I just love the draw power that this card gives, and just being able to actually always have card advantage in my hand is really, really crucial to a deck like this.
Yeah, like this card, like, I mean, starting off is of course like your, avatar where you play off your sites, but late game when you can start like drawing spells off of it, it starts getting like really out of hand. It's a really good balanced avatar for sure.
Yeah.
So obviously anyone can play a sorcerer with any deck, but what type of deck theme are you bringing to the table today?
I actually kind of like constructed this. I haven't been playing sorcery for as long as Jeff has, but when I first got into it, I wanted to like pick a deck that was like kind of original, and I went through all the cards on the Curiosity.io website, and I saw a lot of different things that could have synergy with each other. So a particular card that stood out to me was, I'll go ahead and show it on the screen, Assorted Animals here. I thought that this card really had a lot of potential, and just being able to like search for so many different kinds of cards in the game, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to see if I can make a deck kind of based around this. And so I looked through all the different beasts in the game, and there's a ton. So this deck is just all about searching for any kind of tools that you need, and just swarming the field with beasts, and just, pretty much just having a good time, just like thinning out your deck, and just... I call this Beast Toolbox, because there's a lot of search cards in the deck, and then you just have access to whatever you need, and all the beasts are just so different, and they all have different uses, that you can pretty much just, I forget the word. You can pretty much just go with whatever scenario works well for you, really.
So let me get this straight. You're playing a 4-color deck with Assorted Animals with beasts as a toolbox?
That is right.
Wow, man. Yeah, it's a really spicy deck. Let's get on into, I guess, the spell book. You can start off with that.
Sure, yeah, I think that's the best thing. So the first beast that I have for you today is Sacred Scarabs, and I run 4 copies. Can I just move this guy over?
Yeah, you can just...
I have 4 copies of Sacred Scarabs. This is a really, really strong beast. It has airborne, so it can just go anywhere on the board, and it has a really powerful effect to just deal damage to the opponent's avatar. And it's, because it's an ordinary, we play 4 copies. You'll see why that's relevant a little bit later when I go into like some of the search cards and stuff. But you want to max out on this card because it's just so good, and the deck does a lot of like quick damage as well, and Sacred Scarabs is one of the key cards that allows you to do that.
Yeah, Sacred Scarabs is actually like a really insane card. For starters, having airborne, the death right ability as well, and like what Alexander was saying, you can use this to attack an opponent's avatar, and yes, it'll most likely die because the avatar is going to dish 1 damage to it, but its death right ability will dish out 3 damage to anything in any unit in that location. So yeah, you can sometimes dish out 4 damage with this guy. It's pretty insane.
Oh, always, right?
Yeah.
Whenever whoever attacks
more than likely, yeah. I mean, they could, I guess you can remove it and it'll only deal 3, but for the most part, if it's attacking and dying, yeah, it's going to deal 4 all the time. For sure.
So the next thing I have is 3 copies of Hilock Basilisk. This is another fire creature who's a little bit stronger, but I really, really like the disable effect. It's just so busted.
Yeah, disable is actually like just really insane.
So definitely want to max out on that because, you know, anytime you can just freeze your opponent's creatures, or, you know, freeze your own creatures if you need to like move stuff around. Like this game is all about like positioning and stuff, and so moving creatures around the board in strategic ways to just like freeze them is really the name of the game. So definitely like seeing that card. Then I have some lethals. I have 2 copies of Pit Vipers, and you might think, oh, this is all like fire cards, but I also run 2 copies of Porcupine Pufferfish. So basically, these guys and these guys are almost the same. They both are 1-drops, so they can be played on the first turn of the game, which is crucial because, you know, most cards cannot be played on the first turn of the game. So having a minion is on the first turn is such a huge advantage to your opponent. And they're also have lethal, which means that anything they come in battle with instantly dies. So that's really great for putting pressure on your opponent. And I specifically run 2 of each because their other effects are Burrowing and Submerge respectively. And based on your opponent, you can actually search the one that you need and, you know, potentially get that one first. Or based on the land, the atlas that you have and the colors, you can potentially play one over the other. So I do like the versatility. But of course, if you're playing this deck with a side deck, you could choose to side deck the other 2 copies of each one, just so that, you know, if your opponent is playing more of like a burrow heavy deck, you could side Pit Vipers in. If your opponent's playing more of a water deck, you can side Pufferfish in. So there is malleability for that. But for regular pickup games, I like 2 and 2.
I actually kind of like how you have like 2 of each. And like what you were saying, like I guess depending on what deck you're playing up against, who knows, like you could be up against like an earth deck that plays like a bunch of berries or cave-ins, and if you have the Pit Vipers, it's not really going to do much. Sure, it'll burrow it, but with the burrowing, it'll just survive. And then on top of that, it having lethal to just guarantee like killing a minion, yeah, this is really sweet tech. I actually really like those.
Yeah, I always feel good playing those, especially because they're so easy to play. They only cost 1 mana, so you can play multiple in a single turn if you have them.
Yeah, and like what you were saying with the Assorted Animals too, it just makes it easier to search for too. It's kind of crazy to believe that these are beasts, especially Sacred Scarabs.
Right? Yeah.
For some odd reason, I thought it was like an insect or a bug or something.
Is there an insect?
I don't know, but like, I wouldn't doubt it. There's some cards that I haven't like fully reviewed, but yeah, just Sacred Scarabs being a beast is kind of it's just kind of fun.
For sure.
Very flavorful.
So the next card I have in here is another beast. It's Polar Bears, and I only run 2 copies of this. I used to run more of these, but I actually cut them down for a couple of reasons. But I really like this card because this is a very aggressive card. For those who don't know, it allows you to actually move as if the top and bottom of edges of the realm are connected. So basically, you can go from your closest row all the way to your opponent's closest row. And because it's 2 strength, it can attack the avatar and still survive, which also puts a lot of pressure on the opponent.
And of course, like being able to just have like low mana curve, being able to just search it as well, it's just so good.
Yeah, so far all of the cards I've revealed are beasts, so all of these can be searched with Assorted Animals, whatever you need. The next card I have is actually one of the search cards, which goes in line with the Sacred Scarabs that I have. I have 2 copies of Highland Falconer.
So good.
This card actually has a lot more potential that I think is not in the game yet. Basically, this card allows you to search and play a beast with Airborne directly without paying its cost. provided that its original cost is 2 or less.
Kind of like that Sacred Scarabs over there, right?
That is the main target. Unfortunately, Highland Falconer doesn't have too many targets right now in the game, but it could definitely get more as more sets are printed, so I feel like that card will get stronger as time goes on. But for right now, the best target without a doubt is Sacred Scarabs. That effectively means that I don't really need to search Sacred Scarabs off of Assorted Animals because I can just use this card to get it. Right. And I can get it for free, which means I don't have to, actually even control fire affinity, which is also really nice.
That's really good.
Another card that I was thinking of playing was Palabury Bats, because that card also gives you an additional option to... It's a little bit beefy. It has the ability to burrow as well. But it's not as strong as Sacred Scarabs, but it's nice if you want to like mix it up a little bit, because I saw that Grim Reaper video that Jeff posted, and like if you Grim Reaper the Sacred Scarabs, then Highland Falconer has no more targets, so that might not be a bad card to decide just to give you an additional target. But
I'm glad that you're telling me that. I would have never even thought of that, but yeah, that would make a very strong point actually.
But yeah, without a doubt. He's in here, again, just spinning the deck and swarming the field. That really is the name of the game for this deck. The next card I have in here is 2 copies of Land Surveyor. This is another way to gain resources. Again, like I said, this deck is all about adding resources from your deck to your hand, and this card allows you to access sites, which is really nice. Because a lot of times you want to draw spells, because the spells are so powerful in this deck, whether it's a minion, or if it's a search card, or if it's an aggressive spell that I'll get to later on. And Land Surveyor allows you to mitigate that, because you don't have to worry about drawing sites all the time. You can just play this, and it'll draw the sites for you. So you can focus a little bit more on drawing spells during your turn. So that's pretty cool.
And ramping up that mana is really good too, because with Assorted Animals, you want to put as much mana into it as you can to get as many targets as you can. So yeah, most certainly, just like what you said.
And I am keeping an eye on the affinity as well. Land Surveyor is Earth, and so is Assorted Animals, so those two really go well together. So
that makes total sense. Yeah, Land Surveyor is so good. Have you ever thought about playing Avalian Dryads?
I thought about it. It doesn't really mesh with the deck, because again, it's not a beast, and it doesn't really like I do have plenty of other ways to gain mana, so it doesn't necessarily have like any real synergy, but it's definitely an option if you think that the mana would necessarily be more of a concern. I personally don't have too much concern with mana, because like I said, a lot of my creatures are low cost. So far, only the Hilock Basilisk right now is above 3, but of course I'm going to showcase some big guys which do require a bit more mana. But it's definitely a consideration for sure, but I personally don't play it. So now we have, speaking of big guys, I have 2 copies of Hounds of Ondaros. This card is really, really cool.
It's a literal beast.
It is a beast. So yes, you can search it with Assorted Animals, and it has so many abilities. Airborne, Burrowing, Submerge, Void Walk. Like, it has so much versatility, and it's a big creature. It's 4 toughness, so it gets over something like Lightning Bolt, and it can really take your opponent by surprise. Like, it's just a really, really solid card.
Yeah, the card is actually insane. It's sometimes like, I mean, if you have the Hounds of Ondaros and the Hilock Basilisk, like, those are just so annoying. You can just disable your opponent's minions, play this in a void where it's safe, and then like use the Airborne to attack diagonally and strike something. It's just really powerful.
Yeah, I really like this card. Another card that I really like, which is also a beast, is Panorama Manticore, and I only run 1 copy. I was trying my hardest to fit 2 in here, but I just did not have the space. This deck is already over 40 cards, by the way, so I think 1 is good, but mainly 1 is fine because you can search it, but this is probably my biggest creature in terms of battle strength, because it is 5 toughness, and it also has lethal. So that's really good right now. You can get over big creatures. I know Jeff likes to play Ancient Dragon on me, and this is my main way to out that card. It also does have a ability to untap itself if you cast a non-fire spell, which, by the way, Assorted Animals is non-fire.
Yeah. And
a lot of other spells that I have in here are non-fire. So there's a lot of really easy ways to get that off.
It's actually a pretty crazy card.
But yeah, I always feel good when playing this card. It's such a good card.
Melissa Benson, it's pretty.
Then I have
nice artwork.
Oh yeah, for sure. Then I have a few uniques. I have one copy of Ruler of Thul. This is basically a souped up polar bears. He allows everybody to have the ability that polar bears does to move from the top and bottom edges, and he also has charge, meaning he can attack the turn he's played. So that's really good. He's just, you know, a little bit stronger. So, you know, it can't be searched, unfortunately, but he doesn't need to, because when I get him, he's always a good way to play him. He's probably like my best water creature, I think. Then I have one copy of Death Dealer. This is a really good card. I mean, just in general, like...
Probably the best minion.
Like,
probably.
you know, I mean, a complete board wipe, what's not to love, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he has, what, 4 toughness? So yeah, he can definitely hold his own even after he resets the board. Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, like you can see, I have a lot of other fire affinity in here, so it's very easy to access.
It's a really sweet card. Very, very powerful.
Speaking of fire affinity, the next one I have is one Courtesan Thais. I don't care what anyone says. I think this is the most broken card in the game.
I keep trying to tell people it's really powerful.
Like, I would even say this is more broken than Sinkhole. If we're being completely honest, because this card literally changes the... Like, it literally just turns... Like, it turns the tide of the game. Like, as soon as you play this... Like, I have won games because of this card.
Yeah. Like, it steals games. Like, it
so
really
good.
does. You, like... There's so much to understand about this card. It has so many interactions, and you are kind of playing a gamble when you play this card. Sometimes you can have cards in your hand that can really mess you up, but for the most part, like, if you plan ahead and if you play this card when your opponent has the right cards at the right time and you control them first, it just steals the game. Like, it really does. Like, it's actually ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And then the last minion I have is one copy of Highland Princess. I do run the cores in here, so this allows me to search that. Again, going with the theme, thinning your deck, and just getting cards that you need. It's really kind of a staple if you play any cores. So I do like that. So here are the cores that I play. I have one copy of Philstone, and then one Ruby Core, one Aquamarine Core, one Onyx Core, and one Amethyst Core. All ways to get mana, and just, you know, make sure you have as much access to spells and resources as possible. Any of these are really good draws, especially early game. And like I said, they can all be searched by Highland Princess, so that's really nice.
Yeah, it's really strong. So I noticed you kind of have like a... In some games, they would kind of call this a zoo type of deck, where you kind of have like a whole bunch of assorted animals, no pun intended.
Right.
And then you would also have like these ringleaders, as you will, or like people who like, you know, like zookeepers, if you will.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it.
But for the most part, like I like how you added other powerful cards that aren't beasts, because yeah, you can set yourself to a theme, but you can also have like really strong meta choices that just like allow these decks to just like really pop. And that's what I really like about Sorcery. Like even like these ordinaries, like they can like really like steal you games over time. Like when people aren't paying attention to this can steal 3 damage like over the course of the turns. And Courtesan Thais can just like just set up like turns. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I really like the theme of that. But continue.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, if a card is good, why wouldn't you play it? Let's be honest.
Believe it or not, yeah, like some people would just rather play like on their theme, which is like totally fine too. Like, I mean, you can definitely just play on theme with just what you have. But like what you're saying, if you do have like these powerful cards, if you have access to them, like, you should be playing them. Like, I mean, why not play them? They're just so powerful.
Yeah, you don't have to be, like, super competitive or anything. Like, I'm not a competitive player by any means, but I enjoy winning as much as the next person. So giving me tools to have that is always a good thing. So let's move on to the non-minion spells. I don't know where you want to put these. We have, as I mentioned, the 2 copies of Assorted Animals. This is, like I said, the reason why the deck was built in the first place. As you can see, half of the deck is searched by this card, and in general, it's just a fantastic effect. The fact that you can either search for a lot of small creatures or one big creature, and the double earth is actually not that hard to come by. Like I said, I have all kinds of lands and sites, and ways to access, you know, mana and colors. So it can be played very, very quickly. And like I said, it just allows you to get the resources that you need when you're playing this deck. So
now that I think about it, that would make more sense why Land Surveyor would be a little bit more prioritized than Avalene Dryads, because sure, ultimately they both give you mana, but the Land Surveyor gets you the threshold, or at least helps you dig through it, because you definitely need a threshold for, like, you know, double blue, double red, double, you know, like earth, etc. Like,
is that the term threshold? I've been calling it affinity all this time.
It's typically the same thing, but yeah, like threshold, I guess, is the like actual term, but you can call it affinity too.
Here's another card which is on theme, but might not be what most people consider as like a decent tech. I run 4 copies of Common Sense, and this card is another search card in the deck. It's also Earth, so it goes in with the Land Surveyor and Assorted Animals thing. But this card allows you to add any ordinary card from your spellbook to your hand. And that actually is a lot of targets. You know, like I mentioned, the Sacred Scarabs is one, the Polar Bears, the Pit Vipers, the Pufferfish, the Land Surveyors.
You can even search.
You can even search another copy of Common Sense, which is sometimes what I like to do. I don't know if anybody watching this plays Yu-Gi-Oh, but there's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh called Toon Table of Contents.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing, because you can
allows you to search for any card in the in the Toon archetype, but it can also search for itself because it's also a Toon card. This is effectively the same thing. This is an ordinary card, so you can just search for additional copies and therefore thin your deck even more. Because, as I mentioned, you want to get resources as fast as possible, and if you have the extra mana to spend, you can literally just turbo these and thin your deck, ensuring that you'll draw the cards you need sooner. So I kind of like doing that, chaining these, but it just has so many different targets, including another card, which I'm also going to show right now. 4 copies of Lightning Bolt. This is another really aggressive spell in the deck. And
it almost, like, honestly, if you're playing air, you need to be playing Lightning Bolt.
It, without a doubt, is the best air spell in the game, I think. But yeah, this card is just, along with Sacred Scarabs, I think these are the 2 main ways to deal damage to the avatar very quickly. And this card can be searched by Common Sense as well, so that's a really cool thing. I'm always, making sure that I have a copy of this card, so that this way I can use it in a pinch. It's really good.
Insane, actually.
Another card that I use aggressively is Cave-In, and I run 2 copies of that. This card is just another way to get rid of minions or artifacts, things that are attached to the avatar, like relics and stuff like that. Anything that doesn't have Burrow can die to this, and I think it's also another really good option to play.
Sorry, I just want to make sure you have room there.
Oh, that's fine, that's fine. I only have 1 card left in the spellbook, and I'll go ahead and show it. It's a copy of Browse. This is another staple for any deck playing Earth. The threshold is pretty high, but the mana cost is low, so it can be accessed pretty easily, maybe within the first few turns of the game. And it's basically just search whatever you want. I mean, the top 7 spells, that could be a huge amount of your deck. So
yeah, and if you guys haven't already noticed, like what he was saying before, this is a toolbox deck. In theory, you just have a toolbox and you have access to multiple different tools. Browse, Common Sense, and Assorted Animals just helps you dig through your deck, and it lets you choose and assemble the right beasts to play. And I mean, again, like, you have things ranging from damage to lethality to disabling things, and even just like turning the tide of the game from just changing where you can attack, from taking control of your opponent's turn. Like, this deck actually has like a lot of different like angles to it, so having even just a Common Sense searching out like even the ordinaries, and Browse being able to search through the top 7, like, you're just able to like get those cards out as quickly as you can. And this deck is just so sweet. I love it. It's absolutely sweet.
Yep. Alright, I'm going to put the atlases down. Should I leave these here, or do you want to...
No, I can just move these.
Okay. So, the atlas is what you would more or less kind of expect. I think this is 15 cards. I think the spellbook is a little bit more than 40. It's maybe like 41 or 42. But, as I mentioned, because there's so many search cards, it really doesn't matter that there's more cards. It just allows me to have more tools in the deck. So I don't mind going above 40 if I can play all these cards that I like. But the the Atlas is the minimum amount for sure. Now the first thing I'm going to show off is the dual sights, and I have a pretty specific ratio for the dual sights just because of the cards that I run. As you saw, the 4 ofs that I have in the deck are Sacred Scarabs and Common Sense. So I run 3 copies of Steppe because those are all Earth and Fire, respectively. And again, it allows me to get Assorted Animals off. It allows me to get the Basilisk off. Earth and Fire are really, really important thresholds for the deck. So I do want to. I prefer to see this more so than the other dual lands, but I do run a bunch of the other ones in lesser quantities. I have 2 copies of Ruins, 2 copies of Oasis, 2 copies of Aqueduct, and 1 copy each of Lighthouse and Windmill. So again, mainly just trying to fix my threshold and also fix my mana. You know, these are just, you know, some of the really, really standard cards. You'll notice that I only have 1 copy of the air ones because I also run the towers. The 1 copy each of Gothic, Lone, and Dark Tower. These are basically the best air sites, I believe.
They're definitely the most overplayed sites, according to the Winning Agenda's statistics.
That would definitely make sense. So yeah, I don't necessarily need to have the dual sites have so much air because I can just play the towers instead. Then I have my tech cards, I guess. 2 copies of Sinkhole, aka the most busted site.
So wait, you're playing Courtesan Thais and Sinkhole?
Yes,
in
I am that.
deck?
I am that guy. I am most definitely that
powerful.
guy.
So good.
Yeah. Like I said, if a card is good, why would you not play it?
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Tell us why Sinkhole is good.
Because in a game state where you are all about controlling the board, this card allows you to do that. This card destroys your opponent's resources and allows you to basically make them waste a turn. And if you have something like Polar Bears, they will waste a turn trying to set up, and you could just go in. Because you can just go around the back door, you know? So, yeah, no, this card is great. For sure, definitely play it in pretty much every deck. I would say 2 copies is mandatory. This is a staple.
Yeah, it's just too powerful of a card. Like, you can even use the mana, and I've said this multiple times. Like, another reason why Sinkhole is ridiculous is you can spend the mana and then use it to destroy the site. So you can play something, destroy the site, put them back a turn, and now you have aggression. Like, you know, say for example, Polar Bears.
For sure.
Like, I mean, again, yeah, it's really strong. It's ridiculous. Too many interactions with it.
The cards that I have only 1 copy of each are all uniques. First I have Mirror Realm, which is basically a self-same for sites. So, you know, really decent versatility card. 1 copy of the Color Out of Space, another good threshold fixer. Just allows you to, it's the best card to play if you open first turn. Just a way to get whatever colors you need. Again, another reason why I run 4 colors is because of that. 1 copy of Boneyard. This is also, you know, Graveyard Revival is always nice, and just being able to get cards back from your graveyard. In particular, I have a lot of also Genesis abilities, particularly among
so many Genesis abilities in this deck, like it's not even funny.
So, like, yeah, just being able to re-trigger those is really nice.
You can get back Highland Princess, Courtesan Thais, Death Dealer.
Yep.
You can even get back
a Falconer,
Falconer. But honestly, you can get back any minion.
Even the Land Surveyors.
Yeah,
Genesis
exactly.
Well.
Like, the Genesis abilities, reactivating them for free is just really strong.
And also, if you want to get something big like a Manticore back, you can also do that too.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Like, it's a really, really versatile card also. And then the last card is 1 copy of Smokestacks of Gnaak, which yeah, it's basically just shuts your opponent down. So, and it also has Fire Threshold, which is relevant for this deck because I do play Fire cards.
Oh yeah.
So
pretty sweet, pretty sweet.
So yeah, that's the deck in a nutshell. Like I said, I've been playing it for maybe a couple months now, but I really like it, and I'm really content with this build. As I mentioned, if you are planning on, you know, trying this, you can definitely you know, adjust it to your liking. I recommend if you're planning on building a side deck, like I said, you can definitely fit the other 2 copies of Pit Vipers and Porcupine Pufferfishes in there. Maybe even the second copy of Panorama Manticore if you have the space for it. The Palabry Bats is a good side deck option for Highland Falconer. And another card that I was thinking also was Grapple Shot, because that's another really good spell that you can use, because we also play a lot of air. I personally think Lightning Bolt is stronger, and if I wouldn't play too many non-minion spells in this deck, so I chose Lightning Bolt over Grapple Shot. But if you would like to try Grapple Shot, you certainly can, because it does have its uses for sure.
Really sweet deck tech, Alexander. I really appreciate you coming by to like show us this.
Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I mean, I really enjoyed the ability to share this deck, and hopefully you enjoyed seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a absolute treat, especially with like how far you've come with just like completing the deck. Like it's almost done, and like I mean, like, yeah, just seeing it like come to life is just so awesome. Honestly, I have to get you back on my channel to actually showcase it, so maybe we can get like some gameplay videos in the near future.
Sure, yeah, I'll be down.
Right on, y'all heard it from him, folks. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys want to see more of Alexander or my deck techs, comment and let me know what you'd like to see on the channel. Alright guys, I hope you have a good one.
Bye.